What is up, YouTube? I'm Gaudet74 here, bringing you our IBA Season 5 draft analysis. We are back here for another season of the IBA. Just like Season 4, this will be the only video with face cam because I'm not a big fan of face cam. I like to take multiple takes, and I don't want the face cam cutting multiple times for you guys because that looks pretty bad. So that's why we're going to do that. But to recap IBA Season 4, we did make it all the way up to semifinals before losing to Just Kurt in a really good battle, but I couldn't upload it to YouTube because I tried exporting it like 4 times, and it didn't work, so I just kind of gave up at that point. But it was a good battle nonetheless. It was a really good team we had, but we're moving on from the past, and we're moving into IBA Season 5 as we are getting ready to explore another league in Wi-Fi. Now, this league is a tier league run by Odds and John Jr. this year, or this season, I keep saying year. And they've been doing a lot for this league, so big shout out to those guys. I believe Odds made the art, but John Jr. has been supplying me it for the video, so big shout out to those two regardless. But we have amazing coaches in this league. I just have some listed off right here. I keep looking down. We have Odds and John Jr., obviously. We have Davion, Shadowlink, and Kohanix from last season who are coming back. We have Zombie from the PEBA, and then we got a few members of the Ocean League, like the 14th Doctor and Ollie. They're all in this league as well. So it's going to be a very, very awesome league, to say the least. And that's just some of the coaches. I didn't even mention all the other ones, and all of them are really amazing. So make sure to go check them out in the description below if you have the time to. So that's cool. But in this video, we're going to go over my draft and how I feel about it, and yeah. Okay, so we're going to jump right into this. The first mon I wanted to get was a breaker. And I was looking at a few. I was looking at 2 particularly. One was Kieran Black, which was taking 3rd pick overall. I was 5th pick of 16th, so that kind of sucked. And the second one was one I did end up picking up. It was a little bit early to pick it up, but I decided to say screw it, why not? We're picking up Mega Gardevoir. Mega Gardevoir for 5th overall is a little bit early, but let's be real. 165 special attack, pixelated hyper voices, that's nuts. And I've really learned to respect the 100 speed tier and wall breaking out because of the Mega Charizard Y I had in Ocean League. And this thing just hits really hard, and the only thing that really wants to switch in on both Mega Gardevoir's stab moves are Steel types. And the good thing about Steel types is that there's only 2 of them with reliable recovery, them being Scizor and Skarmory. And the way I built the rest of my team, I can deal with those mons pretty efficiently, especially Skarmory. And Scizor I can deal with pretty well as well, so it's not really a big problem. And walls really don't want to be taking 2 hyper voices, so that is something to keep in mind in general. And unless it's a faster poison type that can take the hyper voice, again, nothing's going to want to switch into it. I just like to have that nuke button, so that is really nice for Gardevoir. It does have low defense, which I gotta be worried about, but we're going to try and patch it up a little bit later. That's a Mega Gardevoir. Next up, I wanted to get a mon that paired well with Gardevoir and dealt with its weaknesses. And I saw a mon when it came back around, and it's one of those mons that I actually don't really like too much. I haven't really used it too much, to be fair. But when I used to ladder back in like Gen 6, I actually never really liked the mon. But it is good. It does have its own rights. We got Heatran. Heatran, it covers up the poison and steel weakness very well for Gardevoir, and even the ghost weakness to an extent, because I'm not really taking too much back. But the thing is, I like this thing because it's got so many resistances. It's got that glaring ground types weakness, which really sucks because Gardevoir can't take those hits any better, so I have to patch that hole up. But it gives me rocks. It gives me a nice choice between offense and defense because Heatran can be run both ways. So that's really cool. It gives me good coverage. It gives me rocks, I think I just mentioned already. Toxic, Taunt. It gets Magma Storm to trap opponents. So it gets a lot of nice utility moves as well. The only thing that sucks about Heatran is it doesn't get reliable recovery, and random HP grounds could definitely throw me off guard and weaken it for later in battles. So that is something I'm a little bit worried about, but I still think these two pair really well. It gives me a decent 77 speed tier. It's not the greatest. I like fast mons, but it's okay. It'll pass. It could run as a Scarf. But that is the Heatran. I think they are going to pair really well with each other. It is also one of my 2 Z users. The Z user rules was that you could just assign any 2 mons Zs. And this was my first one for Heatran. And for my next pick is actually my other Z-mon. And that pick is Komodo. This gives me a good physical attacker with a decent speed tier of 85. Again, it's not faster than 100, but it's pretty nice. I'm a little skeptical about this pick. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. It gives me really good coverage and really good setup potential and autotomize for like special sets, or Dragon Dance for physical sets, and bulk up as well. It gets a lot of good odd coverage there. It gets coverage on both sides. It gets 2 great abilities in bulletproof and soundproof, and even overcoat's a pretty nice ability in itself. And again, it gives me Z user. I don't think I can use Commodium Z, but I can use any other offensive Z move that way. The thing I'm really skeptical about is that I have Hydreigon in the APM right now, and I have barely used it that much, and it kind of fulfills similar roles on that team as Komodo does on this team. So that, in that sense, I'm a little bit worried about it, but we're going to see how it goes throughout the season. I've never used Komodo before. It gives me another rocker as well, so I can run defensively. and a Dragon type. So Dragon Fairy Steel Core is there right off the bat. I think it's a really, really solid Dragon Fairy Steel Core, if I could say so myself. It's not like your typical like Celesteela or Clefable or whatever type of core, but I still think it's going to get the job done pretty well. And all of their secondary typings are actually very, very useful. Psychic's a really good spammable type. Fighting's a really good spammable type, and Steel Fire is a really good type as well. So I think these three are going to synergize very well with each other. But moving on to our fourth pick, I decided to pick up my bulky grass. I love my bulky grasses, and my ground weakness was kind of existent because Heatran exists, Gardevoir doesn't switch into Earthquakes, and even Komodo doesn't really want to be taking them. So I decided to pick up Shaman. I had Tangrowth originally on the list, but it got sniped, which is perfectly fine. Round 4 Tangrowth makes a lot of sense in my opinion. So I decided to go with the next best one, which was Shaman. I like this because, again, it can be ran offensively or defensively, like 3 of my Mons right now. Even Gardevoir can be run defensively if you run especially. So all of my 4 picks can rotate between being offensive and defensive, which I really like. It gives me reliable recovery and synthesis, aromatherapy and leech seed, which is really annoying for my teams to go up against. And again, it gives me the offensive capabilities because Seed Flare is a really, really good move because it can lower Spadef by 2, which then, you know, my next move in Earth Power, I get Dazzling Gleam or Air Slash, can knock out my opponent if they resist Grass. So, and they get the -2 Spadef drop. So that is something to keep note indeed. And it gets good utility moves in Healing Wish and Tailwind as well. So I think Shaman's going to fit the team really well. And the good thing about Shaman compared to Tangrowth is that it does give me a special defense option because with Tangrowth, you're forced to run an AV if you don't run, if you want to run specially defensive, that's what I meant to say. So that is the good thing about Shaman. It gives me 100 speed here, which is since I already have Gardevoir, but it's not bad to say the least. But moving on now, we're going to move on to our 5th pick. It was probably like my least favorite pick of the whole draft because I had a plan, and actually I don't really remember what I wanted at this point. It's been so long. But we picked up Snorlax. I wanted an Ice Resist, I think, and I didn't get it because I didn't want to start stacking types because Tier 2 didn't really have many Ice Resists that didn't have like the Steel typing already or whatever like that. So we have Snorlax. It's a nice normal type. It takes special hits for days. Has really, really good coverage. It has a lot of options it can run. It could be like Choice Band set. It could be a Curse Lax set. It could be just AV and take special hits for days. Like, this thing is really especially fat. It's insane. It's got really 3 really good abilities in Gluttony, Thick Fat, and Immunity. Gluttony if you want to run on a berry set. Thick Fat if my opponent's got really strong Fire or Ice type. And Immunity if you don't want to get Poison stalled, even though I would run Rest most of the times anyway. But that is Snorlax. Again, I was really skeptical. It was either this or like Miltank in Tier 4. But if I picked up Miltank in Tier 4, I didn't know I would want it in Tier 2 later on. And I only have 1 Tier 1 pick throughout the draft, spoilers alert, so that's why I decided to go Snorlax in the end. I think, and it gets Whirlwind, so it can't really be used as setup bait, because 110 attack isn't bad, but it's, if I'm running a defensive Snorlax, it could be used as setup bait. So that's why I decided for Snorlax. And as I mentioned earlier in Snorlax, I didn't want the Ice weakness, I wanted an Ice Resist, because my next pick I already had planned, and I did end up getting it. So we're going to move on to our next pick. Our next pick is one of my favorites in the draft. It is Crobat. Crobat gives me the speed tier finally above 100. I hate having slow team, and so far this team is really slow outside of Gardevoir and Shaman. And Crobat is 130 speed. That is great for me because I love that speed tier. It gives me great pivoting option in U-turn now. It gives me my first defogger of the team. Not that my team is really weak to rocks. It's really not, but a defogger is always nice. Reliable recovery and roost. It could be ran defensively or offensively, like I've been saying this entire freaking draft. It gets Infiltrator, one of the best abilities, probably top 10 abilities in my opinion. It gets good coverage. It's Bird Spam with Brave Bird. It also gets a few other coverage moves, but mainly Brave Bird and U-turn offensively are really good. It also gets Cross Poison if it wants to run Poison Stab, as well as Leech Life if it wants recovery that way. But Crobat, it just gives me really, really good options as well. It fills a lot of holes that my team was missing, like that speed tier, that U-turning pivot momentum, and defog, and another physical attacker as well. So that is really cool. I was really happy to pick this thing up. I was so scared I was going to get sniped. I had Aerodactyl as a backup. I really wanted Crobat for the U-turn, and I'm glad I got it because I think Crobat really, really fits this team well. And that is our first 6 Mons. We have Mega Gardevoir, Heatran, Komodo, Shaman, Snorlax, and Crobat. I'm feeling alright about this draft. I'm still weird because I like to have a little bit of a faster team, and outside of Crobat, this team is average speed-wise, and I am missing a lot of things, like a few. Crobat's my only pivot at the moment, and I don't really like that, so I'm going to try and fill these holes as I move along. Okay, so moving on to the latter portion of our draft, it gets pretty rough, if I'm going to be completely honest with you guys. Our 7th pick is Imola. I did want a bulky water on this team compared to like the APM where I like waited. Luckily, I got Manaphy in the end in that league. But in this league, I wanted the tier 3. I didn't want a tier 4 water, and the only ones left were like a Imola and a Araquanid and something else, but they weren't great to be honest. So I decided to pick up Imola. It does got Regenerator, which is a great ability. It gives me like the fattest wishes in the entire world, so it gives me my team tremendous support in that type of way. The one thing I don't like about this Mont is that it is stupidly passive. I'm aware, so like I'm aware of it, that this is a setup target. A lot of my opponents are probably going to try and use Alomomola as a setup target, and I'm aware of that because Alomomola usually runs like Scald and Toxic, and one, it's got 40 special attack, which is awful, and if my opponent's got Substitute, then it's screwed. I don't have Whirlwind, I don't have Roar, I don't have any of that nonsense, so it's one of those things I really gotta be careful about with this Mon. But outside of that, it's still a really good defensive pivot, as it gives me 165 HP, which is great. The 80 defense is not that bad. And 45 the special defense, while isn't great, again, the HP kind of makes up for it. So that is the Alomomola on this team. It gives me a nice bulky water. And the next pick, I did want my electric type in tier 3, but Healerlisk is what I was going for, and it was taken. And the only one left was Jolteon. And while Jolteon is pretty good for the team, it gives me a 130 speed tier, which I already have in Crobat. So I didn't want to double down on that. So I decided to go a different route, and I went with Zoroark. Now, it gives me a pivoting option in U-turn, which is really nice. I needed another one outside of Crobat. It gives me a really decent lower tier cleaner because 120 special attack and 105 attack is not bad at all. It gives me good mixed capabilities. And it's got 105 speed, which is above 100, which is always nice. The thing I don't like is that I think on Wi-Fi, I don't know, your opponent can see what type you are despite if you're a Zoroark or not. So let's say I'm disguised as Gardevoir, it'll say like type, like it's dark type. I don't know, I could be wrong about that, but I think that's a thing. So that's something, if my opponent notices that, then they'll know. But again, the coverage on this thing is really great. It gets Nasty Plot, so if I force switches, that could be really scary. I also get Swords Dance as well. I didn't actually know that. So this thing has really good setup capabilities as well as cleaning capabilities. It's really good in that sense. It's pretty frail, but it's fine. I don't mind since most of my team is pretty bulky up to this point. I didn't mind picking up something frail. I think I'm going to be pretty happy with Zoroark compared to what I thought because, again, I want to Healerlisk, but I think Zoroark is going to get the job done. Next up, we have a Mon I didn't want to pick up as well, but I needed the utility for it. It is Gligar. Now, I think Gligar sucks. It's like Alomomola, I think it's also kind of a setup target. It's a little bit harder because Earthquake is a pretty spammable move. I do get U-turn pivoting potential, so if it's like substitute potential, I could U-turn out into something offensive. And the good thing about Gardevoir, I forgot to mention earlier, is that Hyper Voice goes through subs, so I don't really have to worry about that in that sense. But Gligar is pretty nice. The typing's pretty good. Obviously, the 4x weakness to ice really sucks, but I'm not weak to rocks, which means I could be more of a reliable defogger, which is pretty nice. It gives me reliable coverage and roost. Again, Earthquake's a pretty nice move to spam around. U-turn. It's really good. I want a Golurk before more of the offensive capabilities, but I did actually pick it up with my next drift. My next pick is pretty offensive, so this pick wasn't that bad. Like I'm pretty happy with the pick still. It's just I could have went a different route with it, and we're gonna see how it goes in the end. It's forced to run Eviolite, but that's fine because that's how Gligar runs anyway. So that is our Gligar, and we have 2 more picks left. They are both tier 5 picks, and I needed the electric type. I needed it, and I picked up my second or third favorite Mon ever. I kind of switched back and forth at this point. It used to be my favorite Mon. It is Electivire. We have Electivire. I think Electivire is a great Mon. It gives me Volt Switch. It's a really good AV user. Not as good as Electros, but it gives me more physical offensive pressuring capabilities as it gets good wild charge coverage. It gets good coverage. What? I can't talk. It gets wild charge. It gets the elemental punches. It gets a lot of fighting type coverage as well. It gets Earthquake. You can run special if you want. I don't think I'm really going to be doing that, but 123 attack is nothing to laugh at, and it gives me electric immunity as well with Motor Drive. And if I get a Motor Drive boost, basically my speed's like a Choice Scarf, and 95 is a great Choice Scarf range. Obviously, the downsides is that Wild Charge isn't the greatest move. A lot of its coverage moves, like the Elemental Punches, are a little bit lower base power, so they're not going to be OHKOing opponents. And it does have a low defense, Electivire, with only 67. It's not great, but it's something we can work with. I think for a tier 5, it's a really good pick overall, and I'm excited to see how it fits onto the draft. And lastly, we actually sniped John Jr. of this pick on accident. I didn't know what to pick up at this point, and I was kind of like, screw it. The draft's pretty nice, I guess. And we're going to go with Shedinja. Yeah, my team wasn't really lacking a rock weakness, and that's the main hazards I'm always worrying about. And Shedinja, I think it can catch a lot of opponents off guard. It's got 90 attack, which isn't terrible. I only take damage from 5 types, which are Ghost, Dark, Fire, Rock, and Flying. And a lot of those types aren't really great against my team. So I thought, you know what, screw it, why not? I don't have a Bug or a Ghost type. I can pick it up. It could be a late game sweeper, believe it or not. It's a Shedinja. I know a lot of teams like to carry rocks, but again, my team isn't crazy rock weak. Yes, there's Crobat there, but outside of that, it's not a big problem. And weather isn't really a big deal. Toxic, I can always scout for. So there's a lot of things. I have a lot of ways to cover Shedinja on this draft. And I think it's going to work out pretty well. Well, I hope it does. It's going to come to a game. I promise you. Shedinja is going to come to a game, and it is going to put in work. I hope. But that is the Shedinja, and that was actually our last pick. And this is the squad. Let me back out of here real quick. And our squad consists of, to recap, we have Mega Gardevoir, Heatran, Komodo, Shaman, Snorlax, Crobat, Imola, Zoroark, Gligar, Electivire, and Shedinja. Zmon users being Heatran and Komodo, not Commodium Z. Now, in my opinion, I think the start of this draft is pretty nice, and it does, I think, drop off a bit. I think Imola and Gligar, especially Imola, I just don't like Imola on this draft. But I can't drop it and just pick up anything. It'll be any better because the water typing is just really, really good defensively. So I'm really skeptical about that. And, you know, Shedinja, I do like Shedinja. I think it is going to put in work some weeks, but in other weeks it's just completely pointless. At least puts a thought into my opponent's head. But that is the team. Again, it's okay. I hope it performs well. Heatran gives me scares with the HP ground a lot, but that's something to take into account. Also, my opponent does have to think about HP ground and HP ice because Gligar can be a pretty big nuisance to some teams. So if they're not running HP ice on it, it could be pretty annoying. So that's good thoughts for my opponent they're going to have to think about. But anyway, I'm going to show the schedule up on screen now. By the way, that last 10 seconds of footage, I have no idea what I'm talking about. I'm just kind of rambling on at that point. Before our schedule, we face the Reno Raikus, the Ottawa Garchomps, the New Britain Rockruff, Kentucky Torcats, the Philadelphia Absol, the Basile Bastiodons, Seattle Sandstorm, the Hartford Whalmers, the Vegas Golden D-Knights, the Eterna City Audino, and the East Coast Bisharp. So that is what our schedule is going to look like for the rest of the season. Again, all the amazing coaches are in the description below, so I highly recommend you go check them all out. That's all I got for you guys. That is our team. If you guys enjoyed the video, please leave a like. I would highly appreciate it a lot. If you like Pokemon Draft League content, consider subscribing to the channel as I'm posting a lot of Draft League content. And I might start posting more now that summer is here. That's all I got for you guys. I'm going to head out of here. Have a fantastic day, YouTube.